We are back for episode 85 of the Ould Triangle podcast. I got you on the hop there. I normally give an intro there, just went straight in.
Didn't even give me notice.
Andy, what's that? It was supposed to be Jersey Day today. You've forgotten out of your Kenya jersey. What's going on?
You missed it. You were off taking a phone call. We'll go inside baseball here. Went for Jersey Day. I put on a Kenyan jersey that I picked up in the airport on my honeymoon, and I'm pretty sure it started making me break out in something while you were on the phone, Ian, so I had to take it off. It was very uncomfortable. That's going to need a wash before it goes back on, so there we are now, folks.
There you go. Yeah, be careful buying jerseys from Kenya. That's the message there. Hope everyone is doing well today. Back for episode 85 of the podcast. A little bit of shameless promotion. If you like what you're hearing, hit the like button, the subscribe button, give us a 5-star review on Spotify or wherever you listen to this podcast. It helps. Share it with a friend. Leave a comment underneath. Whatever you want to do would always help us getting us out there to everybody and anybody as we go through all the latest news in Irish mixed martial arts. And we got to start with Cage Warriors 189, guys. Just happened this past weekend. We had a quartet, is that the right way to say it? Of Irish
a
quartet of Irish athletes out there in Rome to compete in Ryan Shelley, Nicolasi, Paddy McCorry and Gary Rooney. Let's start with Gary Rooney, lads, making his Cage Warriors debut, coming in against Enrico De Gangi. Very highly anticipated debut for Gary Rooney. We were all excited to see him in there. And he goes in and he puts on a phenomenal performance, winning by a first round armbar. A big win for Gary, and an important win for Gary too, Andy, as well. And considering, coming in off here a loss, a lot to prove. I would assume a lot of pressure on his shoulders to make an impact. And make an impact is exactly what he did over in Rome on Saturday night.
Yeah, like I described him as a top of the food chain amateur at flyweight in Ireland back when he was, before he turned pro. We all recall that fight he had with Jamie Abbott-Bissett, an absolute barn burner. And Gary, has looked fantastic. Now he moved to pro. He's had a couple of fights in Cage Legacy, got a good couple of wins, and then he suffered his first loss. So you never know how someone's going to react to that. And obviously a big opportunity here, his first fight, making his Cage Warriors debut, traveling over to Rome. Of course, he's competed at the IMFs and things like that, so he's fought internationally before. But I thought this was a brilliant performance from Gary. I've said many times on this podcast, I am no expert in jiu-jitsu. A man who is Tom King, and he was gobsmacked by the armbar that Gary was able to pull off. It was absolutely clinical from bottom position, and what a debut for Squeaky.
Yeah, 100%. I think one thing I was talking with Sean, we were previewing this card, maybe just focusing on most of the Irish guys on it. But Caoilte, I think we'll all be in agreement that what we're seeing with Gary Rooney is a level of improvement every time he steps into the cage now. And I think we've just seen another level up last night with the performance. Striking looked good. Was light on his feet. Obviously, Gary would never be a guy who would be uncomfortable off his back. We've seen that throughout the majority of his amateur career as well. And, he capped it off with a fantastic win over Enrico De Gangi, a tough opponent to make your debut against on Cage Warriors as well.
It was, especially when you're the away fighter. You're going into that typical enemy territory type thing. It might be a bit hostile being the away fighter. And I thought he thrived in there. His fight IQ is something I've noticed is really, really high. Like De Gangi, he's quite a big flyweight. I find, he's a muscly flyweight and a bit thick. And I thought, as much as success Gary was having on the feet on occasion, I feel like he knew that going back to his bread and butter, that grappling, it's a high level grappling that he has, and taking the fight to the ground, and just getting the submission, not even grinding out a win, but being patient and then taking his opportunity once it arises. Like, his back wasn't even after hitting the floor when he had that armbar locked in and your man was already tapping. So clinical performance. I hope he stays in the Cage Warriors now for the foreseeable, and they build him up gradually, because there's a serious prospect there, and he showed that last night.
Yeah, I mean, talking about building them up, Andy, I think, you know, I don't know whether maybe you said it, we were chatting in the group, you know, I think with Gary over the next couple of fights, you want to see him going in there against similar level opposition. Kind of, you know, just to kind of kickstart the early stages of his pro career. You know, I think that's probably the best route for Gary right now. I'm not sure like how long of a contract that he signed, but I definitely think that, you know, for the development of his career, he's definitely in the right spot with Cage Warriors right now, where Ian Dean can get him the matchups that are going to help him improve, help him grow, and help him get to the next level.
Yeah, definitely. And like Gary's been pretty active, definitely as of late. Like he fought in March, he had that fight at Shock and Awe, the fight that he lost, and now he's been back out again in May. So like I'd just like to see him get a good few runouts here now for the next while. Like I don't think it really matters at this point who you're going in against. Like I would say the fights he had, actually, well, even the fights he had against on Cage Legacy and Clan Wars, like Mararu George, Aaron Brogan, like, you know, like they're not bad fighters at all. Like decent fighters. So I would say just like, yeah, like the opponents kind of don't really matter, I would say, for Gary at this point in his career. Now he has a lot of experience, obviously, from the amateurs, but there is a difference between amateur and like there's obviously a difference between amateur and pro. There's different facets to the game, the longer rounds, the elbows, everything like that. So I just like Gary. We know how great a grappler he is. I would like to just see him get a lot of cage time now to further develop out his striking capabilities, etc., and put it all together. And I think that he's got serious potential there, obviously.
Yeah, savage potential there as well. Obviously, Richie Smullen in his corner as well, a guy that'll definitely guide him in the right direction. But yeah, great to see him Gary in there wearing the yellow gloves, and you know, great moment for him last night. You could see how much it meant to him. I seen all of his Instagram as well. It had all the crew watching in all
Watch
the house.
Parties.
Yeah, it was great to see it. Yeah, so it was class. I mean, if you bring Gary back to that Dublin card that's supposed to be happening later on, well, I mean, there's no venue announced yet for it, but we would assume it's Dublin, is it? Yeah.
I haven't really gone sniffing, to be honest with you, but I'd say it is. I'd say
bring back let's say bring back
it's going to be the early in September.
Yeah, and you bring Gary back to one of those cards. I'd say you get some great support there as well. So it's great to see. Moving on up into the card, obviously, let's talk about Paddy McCorry. You know, a lot of chat and a lot of hype ahead of this. Andy did a fantastic interview with Paddy ahead of this fight, where if you haven't seen that yet, head over to SevereMMA, check it out. Really great stuff. Paddy talks about, you know, his upbringing and some difficulties that he's had and how MMA has changed his life and everything. And, you know, he also talked about how big of opportunity this fight was for him. Obviously, the last fight on his Cage Warriors contract, now a free agent, and it's very important that you go out there and win. You know, I think that was the big thing last night. He had to go out and win. Now, you know, we've seen Paddy go out there and finish fights and everything like that. You know, I think he went out there and got the job done comprehensively last night, Caoilte, and he looked good doing it as well. Obviously, this was at a catch weight of 195. Paddy, natural weight, obviously, as a middleweight of 185. And Shuki Farage, you know, I think he did what we expect him to do, and he was dangerous, but he didn't really get close to Paddy at all, and it was really one-way traffic throughout this fight. How did you think Paddy did in the fight, and how do you think what do you think of the fight overall, I guess?
Yeah, like I reckon, like Farage, I don't feel like he wanted to engage as much as I would have expected. He was very much out of range quite a bit, and I don't think Paddy probably got to maybe impress the way he would usually. And I think we have a lot of high expectations for fighters like Paddy because of the performances he puts on. And I think in this one, he fought effectively. He fought smart, picked his shots well. I thought the calf kick was money every single time he landed it. I thought he was going to nearly finish him if he kept chopping away at that leg after the first round, to be honest with you. But Farage just didn't really engage much. He was loving trying to throw this oblique kick that clearly wasn't working. Paddy actually responded with that later on in the fight, landing his own, which I really liked. And I actually would have liked to see Paddy grapple a bit earlier, because when he got on top near the end of that fight, he you could see there was the levels and difference on the ground as well as on the feet. So he was level above, but the most important thing I think there was getting the win, coming out without any major injuries, any cuts, all that, and being ready for the contender series if that call comes, because as we know, that's what he's calling for, and he knows what he wants, and he's going for it. And fair play to him, an effective performance overall.
Yeah, 100%. We'll talk about maybe what's next for Paddy in a minute, Andy. You just want to get your thoughts on the actual fight itself. I think something that I'd like to pick up that Caoilte says is we saw those flashes of brilliance throughout the fight where, you could see that the level was there for Paddy and he was much the better fighter. Obviously, the finish didn't come for him. He might be disappointed with that, but like I said, I think the biggest thing for Paddy last weekend was getting out there and getting the win and getting it done. I mean, there's a thing, the way I could like to describe it is when you go out there, and win like Paddy did on Saturday, it's great. But if you want to push for the finish, or if you really want to go and chase in the finish, that's sometimes when you can get caught. That's sometimes where you could get wobbled. You know what I mean? And Paddy doesn't want any of that when you're especially heading into free agency as well. You want a clean win, and that's what it was last night. It was a clean win. Yeah, the finish wasn't there, but he got the job done very, very easily overall. Andy, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think like coming into this fight, you look at Shuki Farage, he like absolutely had not fought anyone of Paddy's experience level or Paddy's skill level. And on paper, you're thinking, like, I spoke with Paddy about this, like, you're thinking that this is not, it's not really the level of fighter maybe that Paddy should be going in against, like when he's, we've seen him going against really solid guys on The Ultimate Fighter. We've seen him against like the likes of James Webb even earlier in his career, and other fighters in Cage Warriors. And one thing that I found interesting was Paddy was kind of saying to me how like he feels like he's at his best when he has that bit of fear going into the fight. Now I do believe that he was very aware of the danger that Shuki Farage possessed as far as him coming down from 205 pounds, the power that he possesses as well. And, he can be quite a bit of a reckless striker that, when you're wearing 4-ounce gloves. So I'd say, just my opinion looking at on the outside in, Paddy may have been a bit wary of that and not wanting to, as you said, go in there and assume that he was going to go in and get the win and be reckless. And then, you're in an MMA cage against another fighter, and all of a sudden you can find yourself lying, looking up at the ceiling and not knowing kind of what's happened. The fight played out as you described there as well. Paddy was the superior fighter throughout the entire fight. I thought he was levels above Shuki Farage. I thought that in the first couple of rounds he was quite tentative. Well, maybe not tentative, but more reserved in unloading the kitchen sink. I thought we saw moments of that, and at times, Paddy would back him up against the cage and start to unload with the body shots and then going up top. I thought that his overhand right was looking brilliant. As you mentioned, the low kicks, especially in round one, were working like money for him. He did, I kind of put out a tweet saying after the second round, it was another clean round for him, but that I was kind of expecting him to kick it up a gear and start to unleash. And he responded saying he smoked my left hand a couple of weeks ago, Andy, and he was leaning to that side a lot. So clearly there was an injury going into the fight, which obviously we're not aware of as we're watching it. So maybe he was more hesitant to throw some of the shots that he would, or I mean, he says it right there that he would have usually thrown to go and get the finish. Ultimately, though, from bell to bell, he was winning that fight, and the not finishing sequence, but the ending sequence where he has Farage on the ground and is basically just bullying him. He's bullying him, and not only is he bullying him, but when there's kind of 10 seconds left, and okay, on one hand you could be like, okay, just focus on throwing the shots. This became a more of a cultural moment where he is an Irish fighter from West Belfast, who obviously there's a lot of support for the Palestinian people in that region. He's fighting against an Israeli fighter who was served in the IDF, I believe. And Paddy starts to chant to beckon to the crowd to start chanting Free Palestine, and he starts to kind of curse at Farage as he's raining down these shots. And this becomes a moment where, in a fight where he's gone in against a 2-1 guy, he hasn't got the finish, albeit he's looked brilliant, and he's been calling for, this kind of big moment to then launch him onto the Contender Series. In theory, you could come away from that saying, well, was this a disappointing performance when this was the opportunity to go in and really put a stamp in it by getting a big finish here? But he's gone in there, he's gone in for 15 minutes, he's won the fight from bell to bell, and now the narrative and the story becomes something entirely different, where he's essentially, like, he's trending on Twitter last night. He's become kind of like a cultural icon.
Yeah, definitely. You want to go viral sometimes after fights. You do that normally with knockouts, but without getting a knockout, he's definitely managed to do that with what he's done there, which is it was.
Yeah, so like when you're coming out of that, it's the conversation has entirely moved on to this moment where he's become a I suppose an icon to people who support Palestine. Like that's essentially what has happened here. Like you've people who know nothing about MMA who are like in celebrities and stuff that are posting about him and tweeting about him and all sorts of stuff. So when you consider the I guess the inside and outside of the cage piece there, it's an absolute victory of a night for Paddy McCorry, and the finish kind of to an extent becomes irrelevant. Now we'll see how that plays out as far as what comes next, and that is a very interesting topic that we can chat about. As he's now a free agent. Yeah, let's do it. Maybe I'll hand it over to you, Caoilte. What do you think? Look, the situation that he's in right now, out of his contract with Cage Warriors, and on another world, or maybe previous years, we would have said now is the perfect time, maybe re-sign with Cage Warriors, try and go and aim for that Cage Warriors title shot. But Dana White's Contender Series is something that Paddy wants, and that's the gateway into the UFC now. Whether that's good or a bad thing, I think it's a bad thing for the regional scene in mixed martial arts, not only in Europe, but we're also seeing this in the States as well. The likes of FCC and everything like that, where if you're dangled a chance to get into the UFC via Dana White's Contender Series. If your dreams are to go and fight for the UFC, it's very hard to turn that down. We've talked before about, does what means more now? Does the Cage Warriors title mean more or less? It doesn't seem to be the direct route into the UFC anymore. Even if you go on and do win the title, it seems that Dana White's Contender Series is the gateway into the UFC now. That's what Paddy says he wants. Do you think it's the best route for him now? There's a couple of other options out there as well, I guess, that we can discuss. But that's kind of what he kind of mentioned and alluded to when he spoke with Andy before the fight.
Yeah, I think the best route possible right now, and the most feasible way, I think, right now as a free agent would be to get a Contender Series call up in the summer. As you mentioned there, sign of Cage Warriors potentially having 2-3 more fights, get a title that may not guarantee you a direct route to the UFC anymore, and realistically could only get you a spot in the Contender Series, looking at the way things are nowadays. So I think he's been on the UFC's radar from the Ultimate Fighter. He's been winning fights. He is calling for a shot at the Contender Series. They're aware of him. He's tagging. I think I saw him on Twitter. He was someone was, I think, they're rumored for Contender Series, and he said he'll have him. So yeah, I think it'd be more than realistic for him to get the call up to the Contender Series, and if that happens, we'll see. But I do think that's probably maybe the best route for him to get to the UFC right now as it stands. If it doesn't come, then potentially, that's a different story. You look at Cage Warriors again and maybe try and climb the rankings, or maybe just one fight deals elsewhere, build up the record and hope to get called up. But it's hard to know at the UFC nowadays, to be honest, because they value undefeated record so highly. It's even if it's not against the toughest competition, that it's crazy, and it nearly devalues some of the achievements that people, not devalues, but devalues titles on the regional scene. Mm-hmm. But Contender Series for me.
Yeah, indeed. Look, at a lot of people, and I heard a few suggestions as well, Andy, along with the Contender Series, is the other route that Paddy may go down would be the PFL route. And it's one that has to be said now. Obviously Paddy was fairly clear in what he wants as well, but it's always good to keep your options open in this kind of scenario that you're facing. What do you think is the best route yourself for a guy like Paddy?
Well, I think PFL should be clamouring to get a guy like Paddy.
For sure.
For starters, when you look, considering the rise that Paul is on, and also from Paddy's perspective, yes, he spoke about the UFC. Yes, he spoke about that's his goal, the Contender Series and all that. But he also spoke about money, and I would say the reality is that PFL can probably offer him a more immediate earning path than the UFC can. If you're going into the UFC, it's going to be in a 10-10 contract.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that I don't know, I guess I would have a question around is, Paddy's obviously with Cage Warriors right now. He's managed by Graham Boyle, and he made it very clear that like I don't even know if he was on a Cage Warriors contract. Obviously, once you sign a bout agreement, you have at least a 1-fight deal, but maybe there's no multi-fight contract right now. I don't know if Graham Boylan has any fighters that he manages that are in the PFL. Obviously, the PFL and Cage Warriors are competitors in Europe. So would that be a hurdle? I've no idea, and I'm not. That's just purely a question. I would say that, yeah, the Contender Series is the path if Paddy wants for the UFC. I don't think that hanging around in, if that's an option, absolutely take it. I don't think hanging around in Cage Warriors for the sake of trying to get a belt is going to necessarily increase your chances anymore of getting that UFC call-up, especially when Paddy has already gone to the Ultimate Fighter. He's already had the exposure to the UFC matchmakers. He's gotten that win over Mark Hulme in the Ultimate Fighter. He had that really great performance, albeit a first-round loss to Robert Valentine, where they're trading bombs and he's landing some big shots. Like, that's the type of fighting style. In addition to the massive KO he had over Ty Palmer, in addition to the high kick and flying knee he had over Angus Hewitt. These are all things that the UFC matchmakers are looking for. So, albeit he's coming off a decision win here, I think he's already shown in his career the type of exciting fighter and finisher that he is. And I think that's exactly what they're looking for when it comes to the Contender Series. So I would love to see him get a crack at Contender Series this summer. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting because, as you said, like there are options, and especially when you see your teammate who's become a star in another promotion and is earning money where that wasn't possible in the UFC route. Perhaps his mind will change in the Contender Series piece if PFL come to the table.
Yeah, for sure. And then you also have like the PFL. The likelihood they'll be bringing back events to Ireland as well, like maybe Belfast too, is something that might turn Paddy's head. But I think there are options and there are ways that you can go through the Contender Series. And I think a guy with Paddy's style can go there, and if he's active and if he's finishing fights, he'll be looked after in the UFC eventually as well. It's a bit longer maybe that you would have to go before you get what you're looking for, maybe get what the PFL is offering you. But overall, when you're looking at it, it's good to have those kind of options as well. And he's going into free agency off the back of a win. And yeah, I think the future is definitely bright.
A dominant win. Just to make it clear, because I've kind of harped on the knockout and the finish a bit, but a very dominant win.
Oh yeah, but absolutely. It was like 30-27, 30-27, 30-26, and easy. Like, I don't even think Paddy got touched in that fight really at all, which is perfect. It's exactly what you want in a fight. If you're going to win by decision, that's the way to absolutely do it as well. So onwards and upwards again for Paddy, for West Belfast, Paddy McCorry. Fair play to him, and I'm excited to see what's next. Team O'Neill, all the way, love it. Nicolasi picked up a first round rear naked choke submission. I said smoke because
that's a good one. Rear naked smoke.
Joe, I'm going to tell you, that's a Freudian slip because we're in Saskatchewan and Alberta over here now. We're actually dealing with a lot of wildfires. And it's very smoky outside. And I'm looking out the window and I can see a little bit of smokiness and stuff. And I'm like, yeah.
There's a lad choking someone outside the window.
Well, anyway.
I thought it was a reference to Paddy McCorry.
Paddy smoking as well. I was going to go there again as well. So,
how about, did you hear him in the interview with me that he was saying he had a
joint ready
wrapped up in his pockets and smoking the cage?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I
might get away with it in the Cage Warriors, but just imagine he pulled that in Vegas, he could get himself in a bit of bother. But yeah, fair play, whatever works. That seems to be his gimmick now, so he should ride with it. And anyway, on to Nicolasi, who picked up a first round submission via rear naked choke, not smoke, against Sulio Hiljaj. Very impressive on this from Nicolasi, and kind of kept the momentum that Irish-based fighters were gaining in Rome, kept it up on Saturday night. Caoilte, what did you think of the win?
Yeah, brilliant win. That's a way to announce yourself in Cage Warriors. I've always really liked Nicolasi. He's got this energy that will just really, I don't know what is it. You grip to it nearly, and
swagger, doesn't he?
Yeah, I love it, and it's a bit of personality in the cage, just everything. It's fantastic, and you can see the crowd are drawn to it. I know he's fighting at home, but they were going wild when he won, and their performance, the intensity, and I guess he doesn't just he doesn't stall or rest. He's constantly looking. He's active, and I really like that. He was hunting the finish, and he got it there with just less than a minute left in the round on his Cage Warriors debut. And what a way to announce yourself in the division and in the promotion. Brilliant performance from him. I'm really looking forward to see what they have in store for him now.
Yeah, Andy, your thoughts?
Yeah, really impressed. Really impressed. Obviously, he threatened with a number of subs in the first round. I thought he was going for a Sudoiv stretch, but I was about to be very proud of myself. So I was like, I know that submission. And then Redzer was like, oh, he's going for a knee bar. I was like, oh, damn it, I got it wrong again. But look, I thought he looked brilliant. And as Quitch said, like the moment after the fact when he gets up on the cage, I love the Monkey King nickname too. I love that he had the crown. I love that he showed the personality, and it's a homecoming for him as well. Obviously, like he's an Italian fighter who's based himself in Dublin for the last number of years, living and training in SPG. And again, we're seeing the influx of SPG fighters, 2-0 on the night. Obviously, Irish MMA 4-0 on the night as well. But we're seeing more of these fighters who maybe weren't getting, because I feel like Nicolasi didn't maybe get as many opportunities as like some of the other fighters from SPG on the Bellator shows.
Under the radar a little bit, yeah, but not anymore, I don't think. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly, yeah. So it's great to see, and obviously getting to do that in front of his in his home country, to return and make his debut there. A brilliant moment for him with the crowd, like they all had the matching T-shirts and everything. He was completely swarmed by them after the fact. It was a brilliant scene and a picture perfect Cage Warriors debut. So fair play to the Monkey King.
Yeah, 100% great win for him. And Ryan Shelley capped off a very successful night for the Irish talent in Rome as well, picking up a great second round rear naked choke win over Simone D'Anna. A close fight up until the finish, but Ryan ended up getting the back in the second round via triangle and worked his way up into that choke. It was similar enough to his win, I believe, over Nicolas LeBlanc. Was that right? Or am I getting that right? Maybe, I don't know. I should be checking those things before I'm throwing out there. He had a rear naked choke win over
Josh Reed.
That's the one. That's the one. Fantastic.
Brilliant win.
Yeah. And
Crazy
also
work.
this was a brilliant win too. Like, I mean, Ryan's back was against the wall, Andy, before this one. He had gone 1-3 in his last 4 fights. That being said, me and Sean talked about it in the preview on the Sphere channel as well. Tough opposition he was facing, and he was facing tough opposition on Saturday night too. And he got the job done, and it was a massive, massive win for the Team KF, man. And the successful run of wins for Team KF keeps on riding. I think they posted up on Instagram. It was they're undefeated now since September 2024 in the professional ranks. It's just a fantastic achievement, and it's great to see Ryan Shelley get back into the win column as well.
Yeah, I think they said 20 pro wins in a row, which is pretty crazy, pretty damn impressive. Look, Ryan, this was a must win for Ryan Shelley, and he was 1-3 coming into this fight. And you're absolutely right. Like, I feel like since the beginning of his pro career, he's faced difficult competition, especially since he's entered Cage Warriors. Like, he entered the Cage Warriors against that Matt Elliott that time. Obviously the controversial, the notorious fight versus Matt Elliott. Then he faced Josh Reed, and he had that, as we talked about, that great submission. But then, like, the tough run started, and it was Tobias Harila, who everyone's well aware, he was the boogeyman, and he was winning that fight for the vast majority of it until he got cracked with some big shots, and I think his nose got broken in that fight. He's fighting Jordy Bax and then Nick Bagley. Like, Nick Bagley alongside Solomon Simon, I see as like those two lads colliding for a title very near.
Big time. Shawnee is up. Shawnee Sheen would say, and I wouldn't disagree with him, Nick Bagley is up there, one of the best fighters in Cage Warriors, full stop, right now, with the level of talent that he has. So, I mean, no shame. Be absolute beast. So, you're going through Killer's Road there for sure, and then you're coming in against an experienced Italian in his own backyard as well. I mean, he definitely hasn't gone down the easy route. Ryan Shelley has.
Yeah, like I hadn't really realised just how experienced Simone D'Anna is. Like, I forgot that he fought Brian Moore. He's fought Michel Martignoni, who's obviously former Cage Warriors champion. Albert Diaz, we saw him in a few Bellator shows. Jordan Vucenic. Like, his losses have come to really good guys. So coming into this one, it wasn't, this wasn't like a softball given to Ryan Shelley to try and get him back in the win column. This was a tough test on enemy territory against a really, really experienced fighter. So to be able to pull it out of the bag to to get back on track, I think is huge for Ryan, and especially at this point in his career where, he's not he's by no means old, but like I can't remember, he's probably pushing towards 30, I would say at this point. Maybe I'm aging him here, so apologies if I'm just aging him a few years. But I think he's late 20s. Now is the time to start kicking on, and look, it's going to be interesting. Like I don't know what the status of Ryan's contract is either, because we've seen kind of an exodus of KF fighters from Cage Warriors. So I don't know. Like, I think the Shelleys are still there, and obviously Leon Hill has just been matched on Cage Warriors too. So it'll be interesting to see what's next for Ryan, because I think it's great to see him. Like, look, he's one of the, just speaking on him as a person, one of the loveliest guys I've ever come across in Irish MMA, just a salt of the earth guy. So, from a human standpoint, you're happy to see someone like that get back on track when it's been a rough road. But yeah, look, it's back in the win column, and now it's a case of, right, how can he build from here? Because that's in recent times and recent years, that's been the missing piece, is just that consistency. He obviously went on that great tear earlier on, but the kind of tough match game, and now it's a case of, right, let's see what happens from here.
Yeah, indeed. Like, I mean, when you're fighting tough competition, and we can acknowledge that too, but it's still not easy to get in there, Caoilte. When you're facing those losses, you maybe have a dip in confidence. You maybe start questioning a lot of things as well. And, that can very easily happen. You can go into a negative thought process very, very easily as a fighter. But, going out there and facing these competitions, if you look at the positive side, you learn, you're growing. But when you pick up the win, it can give you a good steam of wind going into your next couple of fights too. And I'd be looking forward to seeing Ryan and what's next for him too. I'd personally like to see him matched again on the Dublin car, or whatever the Cage Warriors come back to Dublin. I'm forcing the Cage Warriors hand here, saying it's coming back to Dublin. Pure speculation, of course. But what do you think is the next right move for Ryan?
Well, it's on Cage Warriors 194 Dublin, Saturday 27th of September.
Do you have it on Tapology? If it's on Tapology, that means it must be right.
No, it's actually on the website. It's a poster and all up there. It just doesn't say the venue. But no, that's the Cage Warriors website.
I mean, it's going to be the RDS. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
It is, yeah. Could do with a better venue, really. Like, to be honest with you, but there's a shortage of good venues outside the
National Stadium.
That's what I was going to say. You're going to have to fucking have a word. I know you're a basketball guy, and you're in on the basketball. Yeah,
National Stadium's boxing, but I'd love the basketball arena.
Yeah, the basketball arena that'd be like bringing it way back to where we had lots of great cards there as well. But I
used to no big deal. Did the layup line at halftime one time for a Super League game. I think it was 10. Maybe.
Yeah, get in there. I know that they're charging a lot to hold events there, which might be a stumbling block. But you have to go in there and negotiate for the Irish MMA scene. I think you're.
I also won the 2004 All-Ireland C League.
Fantastic. Where's the medal? You want to be bringing out these medals? You want to be like Henry Cejudo?
Captain Stevenson. I was the third best player in the team, but I was the captain because they were twins. So the coach couldn't choose between which twin to make captain. So I got the captaincy.
So what you're going to have to do now, go over there and negotiate. You'll have to spin the basketball on your finger and kind of bamboozle them a little bit with your skills and just get them to sign off. And
this could be you. This could be you.
This could be you. Yeah. But yeah, look,
that was a basketball talk quickly.
That was a serious side tangent there, as can happen on this podcast from time to time. But yeah, look, it all comes to all. Fantastic for Ryan Shelley getting back into the win column again. And great stuff by Team KF. They're really, really firing on all cylinders in 2025, and it's great to see. Before we talk about our fighting championships, it's also great to see a little bit of Irish interest on the Ultimate Fighter this year as well, which kicked off last week. Episode 2 will have already been broadcast as well. Obviously, we'll cover that on the next. We're recording a little bit before the episode 2 comes out, but the teams that have been picked, Daniel Cormier and Chael Sonnen, are the two coaches. For me, obviously, the Ultimate Fighter maybe doesn't have the shine, maybe doesn't have the gloss as it once was after so many seasons. I throw it on. It's on a pretty decent time for me. I throw it on, I'll watch it. I'm just kind of a degenerate when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I have to say the talent in this season is pretty good. Just the format maybe is a little bit weathered and a little bit worn right now. The fact, Chelson and DC are the coaches. We were talking a little bit before. It's a little bit of a pity that, and a little bit of extra bite goes in when the two coaches are fighting at the end of the season, and you don't really have that now. So it's more like playful banter between DC and Chelson. And one thing that I do like about this season is they're actually bringing in throughout this season former winners and people from the show from previous years, because it's the 20-year anniversary of The Ultimate Fighter. So they're bringing in the likes of Forrest Griffin and other fighters who have done really well in the show throughout the years to kind of bring in and coach, which is a fantastic experience, I think, for all the fighters in there, including SBG Charlestown's Andreeas Binder, who was picked on the team of Chael Sonnen for the episode. He was picked last, and who cares? There's been numerous last place winners before of it. I don't think where you're picked it defines who you are or what you are as a fighter. But it's great to see Andreas in there. It's struggle city for a lot of people watching The Ultimate Fighter. But if anything, I'll be holding my hand up. If Andreas wasn't in this season, I probably wouldn't watch it. I might go back and maybe watch some of the fights at the end of the show or something like that. But what are you thinking, Andy? You're not dazzled by The Ultimate Fighter anymore as you once were, I guess, eh?
Glued to it, man. Glued to it. I've watched it 6 times. It's been what a show! What a show! Listen,
ultra fan Stevenson here. Yeah. I'm surprised you're not coming up with the jerseys and stuff, eh?
Team Stevenson. I've boycotted the first episode just because they picked my boy Andreas last, so won't be watching that. Haven't watched it. Saw the clip online, but I will be tuning in for basically the Andreas clips moving forward. I'll probably throw an episode on, scroll through it, see when Andreas comes on the screen, watch that part, and then scroll through it again and then watch him fight. So that's about the extent.
Basically, it'll be relying on me then. I'll do the
I won't pretend. I just don't care. I just don't care. It's been dead for so long. Even when they had fighters who were fighting, they didn't fight.
And I think it's unfortunate because
coaches.
I think they went on a real dip for a couple of years where the show was kind of on its last legs, but then they were also they weren't putting a good level of talent in The Ultimate Fighter. But I do, and I'll say it again, I said it at the start of this segment, is that I think that the level of talent is pretty decent in this year. You have welterweights and you have flyweights as well. But the high level of talent, it's Andreas is going to have a couple of tough tests in there now. It'll be interesting to see how he does.
I just go on ahead, could you?
Yeah. The talent's one thing. I think every year, every season, there's good talent, but I think the product of Ultimate Fighter is it's as Andy said, it's pretty much dead. It's not really that interesting. The fights are typically quite good, to be fair. You see some crackers, but I personally can't get behind it anymore. I can't put myself through staying up and watching it. I love going back and watching some of the fights, but I wouldn't, same as Andy, I wouldn't be watching if it wasn't for the fact that Andreas is on the season. And half the time I couldn't tell you I couldn't tell you for some of the previous seasons who's even won, but I'd know of them from just previous fights, seeing their names across different promotions. And it's the same again with this season. There's some good talent, but unless Andreas makes to the final, I probably couldn't tell you who wins the season.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think that Contender Series is completely cannibalized it too, because you have
100%.
Is good fights. Well, you can just get that without all of the fucking fluff and
100%.
Because it used to be the opposite. Well, it didn't used to be the opposite way around, but it was the drama that really sold the Ultimate, that drew you in to watch the good fights on the Ultimate Fighter. Whereas there's none of that now. Even everyone's very professional, which is great from their career.
The drama of the house and then the drama of the cage.
I still hate Bobby Southworth. I still hate that guy. I hate that guy. But do you know what I mean? I'm thinking from a fighter perspective, I don't see it as why would you do it? So I realize we're saying this as you have to put yourself through going into that house and being stuck in there and then to do the fight. And if you can get an opportunity in Contender Series instead, you can go in and do one fight, not have to do any of that bullshit, and then you're still on the same shit content.
I think there is a certain level of value for a fighter in terms of the coaching that you'll get
Okay.
You know, that's the way. Honestly, that's how I feel. And I know anybody who has been in there. I mean, Paddy said it to you, like he doesn't regret doing it. And you know, you pick up some friends, you get some good training partners, and you get some savage coaching. And that's why I was saying, even at the start, you know, with the 20-year anniversary, you're going to get a lot of cool, special kind of coaches coming in, sharing their thoughts. You know, they'll run training sessions and stuff like that. So I feel that there's a value of that going in for a fighter. But in terms of what you're saying, I do agree what you're saying, Andy, with most of the rest of the stuff that you're kind of highlighting there. Indeed. So,
yeah. I see what you mean.
A big negative fucking two negative Nancys here today. Come on, I know I'm only joking.
Do you know what? The only one of those shows that I love Contender Series. It's all action.
I'm even kind of getting a little bit sick of Contender Series too, if I'm being honest.
What I never got.
MMA.
Let's do we have to start a new podcast here. We're bitching so much about MMA, but no, it has to be said.
What's the show they did? Looking for a Fight. That was good for me anyway. I can get behind that. I always did. I loved it. I wish they did a few European episodes. But
I think what we're all kind of saying is less of the fluff and more of the fights.
Yeah.
That'd be fair.
1 minute fights, Craig Jones. Or Dan Hooker.
Dan Hooker.
That's the way it's going. But yeah, it's great to see Andreas get the opportunity. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does in the show. We'll be keeping you up to date with what's happening there. As I said, he's definitely not going to be fighting on episode 2 because that fight was already announced on episode 1 after the first fight. But we'll keep everybody in the loop as to what's happening, and hopefully, you know, we can bring him on and have a chat after it's over as well, if he's willing to join us as well. Let's move on over and talk a little bit about Iúr Fighting Championships. Took place not last weekend, the weekend before. A couple of great fights on that card, and none better, I think, than the main event itself for the flyweight title. Ben Mann from SBG Charlestown as well took on and defeated Cian McCartan via unanimous decision. And I got to say, lads, phenomenal performance from Ben Mann, who's like really bursting onto the scene now in these last couple of fights. And, you know, he's been with SBG Charlestown from a very, very young age. I know they think very, very highly of him. And, you know, after picking up a good win over Shea Cleland, and we know we spoke very highly about Shea Cleland in numerous podcasts on the Old Triangle here, backs that up with a win and a defeat over Cian McCartan, who I believe had defeated him before in a previous fight. So it gets that one back and is really riding the crest of a wave starting off in 2025. Andy, phenomenal performance. Things that I like to highlight from Ben Mann from a very young age. Coming in here, normally, you know, you can kind of get, you know, we see young fighters coming in and, you know, they might get drawn into a scrap or they might make some poor decisions. But I was really impressed with Ben in this fight against Cian McCartan, who's a tough cookie to try and get out of there now and to get a win over. His distance control and his shot selection throughout the fight and his footwork just didn't give Cian McCartan an inch in this fight. And, you know, we talked about Paddy McCorry being dominated from start to finish in his fight, and it was a similar enough situation here for Ben Mann. And this guy is on the up and up, and it was great to see what a great performance. I'm sure you would agree as well, Andy.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. Like you watch him fight and you just get excited. Like he's really, really good. Like considering he lost unanimous decision less than a year ago against Cian McCartan, who at the time had already had a heap of fights. Coming into this one, Cian McCartan had 19 amateur fights. This was Ben Mann's sixth fight as an amateur, and like Cian McCartan's a great fighter, but like this didn't ever really look close. Like this was a clean performance from Ben Mann. Like the wheel kick in the second round, like he just, you know what he has a tenacity about him, and he has a killer instinct that, like, go back and watch old Owen Roddy fights, yes. Go back and watch old Neil Seary fights. And look, I'm not saying he's you know the next Owen Roddy or the next.
But in terms of fight style, is what you're saying.
The viciousness, the knees to the body, like just the shot selection. I thought there's a
shot
lot to be
selection
excited about.
Yeah, the shot selection for me for a very early amateur Caoilte, it was something that like really stuck out to me. You know, head body. You know, you can be guilty, and I was there myself. You know, you go a little when you're nearly fight when you're starting to fight early, you can go head hunting a little bit. And I think when you finally start getting settled, or when you start doing a lot of schooling and you get settled into striking, that's where you start mixing it up, down and high and low, the up and down. You know, those shots to the body obviously open up more shots to the head. So he's got that about him at these early stages, and it's very exciting to see, isn't it?
Yeah, and if while he's picking these shots off, if he gets taken down, he's got all the ability in the world on the ground to be able to, you know, impress there or bring it back to the feet. But going back to the shot selection, my goodness, like seeing, you know, as you mentioned, head, body, head, the combinations he was throwing, and some of the strikes he was throwing as well, that spinning wheel kick or spinning back kick, whichever it was, like, oh my, I gasped as soon as he threw it. And then I think by the third round, he just looked like he entered this state of flow. And you know, when everything you're throwing just looks nice and fluid, and he was picking them lovely, and it was sensational. It was really, really good to watch. But I know we're giving him a lot of praise. Of course, he won. I think Keane McCartan as well, on the other hand, was also, the chin on him.
Yeah.
Oh, he was game, yeah, completely. And he was initiating the grappling, even though he was tired, he was hurt. I think he initiated his eye in one round as well, and was still just standing there taking shots and trying to fire back. So overall, I think the fight itself, incredible. Ben Mahon, so impressive. And the shot selection and just the overall ability of the lad in that fight really stole the show for me. Yeah,
100%. I was talking with Paul there during the week as well about, you know, what's the plan for him going forward in 2025. He was saying, you know, likely scenarios that we head over to the IMAFs now, which I think is a great thing for Ben. And, you know, obviously completely no rush in getting him. He's still very young, and no brush in getting him over to the professional ranks. I think that a little bit of IMAF experience will do him the world of good. And look, he's a guy in the world of Irish mixed martial arts, and even at amateur level, there's a lot of people that are fighting and a lot of names to try and follow. And, you know, Ben Mann is one guy who, when I see on a card, I'm going to be looking forward to seeing for sure, based off that performance and his previous performances as well. And I'll ship it over to you, Team Stevenson. Jared Bryan picked up a win via unanimous decision. This man can't get the smile off.
My headphones cut out there. What'd you say?
Team Stevenson, Jared Ryan picked up a rare win for Team Stevenson, I think.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Can you repeat that again?
You want to change those headphones?
Yes, baby.
Not one to gloat over a win is Andy Stevenson, but here we go. Go on.
You all laughed when I picked my team. Like the disrespect that was shown to Team Stevenson when it was formed. And can I just add, Jared Ryan 2-0 in 2025 here. Jared Ryan doing Jared Ryan things. A great win here at Iúr Fighting Championships. The reason why I chose him last year, or why he caught my eye last year, was his MMA grappling and the way that he has an MMA style. And I think that it was on display again, especially in the first round. He got the old wrist control, was landing some heavy shots from the top position, and just he was like a fly on shite. You didn't give him an inch. Now had to battle through, rounds 2 and 3, but ultimately 2 rounds to 1 is how I had it. I thought it was a great fight from both lads. And yeah, like
he became a two-weight world championship.
You said it, Ian. You said, yeah, I agree. 2-weight world champion. That's what
the Iúr world.
Yeah,
super bantamweight champion.
Yeah, exactly. So Team Stevenson, listen. This is just another day on Team Stevenson.
I'm going to bring you in. I'm sick of the gloating here. What did you think? A more even-keeled approach. It was a good fight overall, I think. And obviously, I thought Jared Ryan did, when the judges' scorecards read 29-28, 30-27, 30-27, tells the story of the fight overall.
Not completely. I thought, look, first 2 rounds, I thought Jared Ryan, the pressure he puts him under, absolutely ridiculous. I need to go looking into what I believe I heard was a James Bond submission or whatever that is.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was either. It was like some weird one with his legs wrapped. I don't get it.
Yeah, when you got two lads like
jiu-jitsu
Brown.
nerds on commentary, let's be honest, in Paul Brown and Andrew McGahan.
I'd say they were absolutely
They're salivating.
buzzing. Oh wait, there's how many? There's 8 submissions on the card, and then
Ninja
Paul
choke
Brown,
early on in the card too, I believe. Yeah.
that was it. And then Paul went off, and I think he jinxed it. They were talking about the record of submissions in Iúr, and they didn't break the record. But my God, the amount of submissions and the grappling exchanges on this. But yeah, this James Bond submission that Jared Ryan was trying to pull off. Good Lord, I know what it is, but it was very impressive. But in the third round, Jason Sheridan, he had his moment as well. He had a bit of momentum. He was looking for an L triangle of his own, but had a big squeeze. But Jared Ryan got out, survived, got on top, and started landing shots. Yeah, big win for him. He's recently moved over to MMA Cork as of this year, I believe. And a quick shout out for that walkout song as well. Well, best one of the night, in my opinion. It was, I don't know the name of it, but Andrew McGahan alluded to it being from one of the from the old WWE days of 2007, I think it was. Fantastic.
No, fucking 2007 is not that old, Grealish. Come on, I was in my prime at that stage of my life.
It's 18 years ago.
Oh my God, it's so old.
I was 9.
Some of these fighters weren't born.
I was probably, what was I? I was 21.
You were 35 then, Ian.
Yeah, I felt 35. Moving on. In the featherweight division, Michael Cartmill defeated James Wallace of FAI via unanimous decision as well. Cartmill coming in here, Andy, off the back of ACL surgery. First time he was in the cage in a couple of years there as well. So coming back, obviously a very, very serious injury to have to deal with in the early stages of your career. But came back and used his grappling to go out there and dominate James Wallace and get the win.
Yeah, it was a really, really strong performance considering how long he'd been out of the cage for 2 years, as you mentioned. Look, it was his grappling that, and it was, do you know what? It was his grappling, but it was impactful. It was grappling that scored a lot, where he was landing these big slam takedowns. He was looking for hunting for submissions the entire time. He was close, I would say, on a Von Flue choke early in the first round, and spent the vast majority of that round on top. Kind of dominated that first round. Again, second round, big slam takedown from the body lock. Landed a good few body shots, and he got to the crucifix. Wallace reversed. I'm trying to remember this now. Wallace reversed and had a sub of his own, but Cartmill, I think he was looking for a north-south choke, but Cartmill was able to escape and work into a darce. And I think, Caoilte, you said about jinxing it in the last fight. Well, Browner and McGahan absolutely jinxed the sub here. They're like, oh, he's done, he's out. I think McGahan he was saying that he was unconscious at one point as he was moving.
He went on Joe Rogan, it's over, it's over.
So they got a submission happy clearly after the slew of them early.
That was like a complete side tangent again, boys. That was like last night. We're recording this the day after the UFC event. Obviously, Macy Barber was forced to pull out of her fight with Erin Blanchfield, and they just did a horrible job on the desk, I thought, just covering the fluff that you have to do after it. And DC was like, man, I can't imagine how Erin Blanchfield is feeling right now. I bet she's in the locker room now crying. Somebody needs to get a camera on her. And then cut 30 seconds later, they put a camera on her and she's like smiling from ear to ear. She's not crying at all. Like, DC is just like, yeah. Anyway, sorry, side tangent there. Apologies.
That's okay.
I don't know why you told that. I don't know why you told that story, but
yeah, no.
I thought it was funny. You had to be there.
Ultimately, and to be fair, as I've given the lads shit, I actually huge fan of Paul Brown and Andrew McGahan as a duo in commentary.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Throw that out there.
Fantastic,
Big fan of that pair on our shows. Yeah, but Cartmill, look, he dominated here. Wallace. It was just he never really got Cartmill never really gave him a chance to get going. In the end, it was a unanimous decision. I think the third round was probably the best round for James Wallace. In the end, it was a unanimous decision, 29-28, 30-27, 30-27. And brilliant comeback, a comeback performance in the sense of coming back from an injury and out for 2 years from Michael Cartmill, who moves to, I think he's like 5-1 now, maybe, as an amateur. So he's a nice L run, up to 5-1 after that one. So hopefully see him a bit more active now moving forward.
100%. Caoilte, anything else that stuck out to you on the card overall, having a look back at it?
Yeah, geez, there's some good fights. That is it Ricky Araujo?
Yeah, moved to 4-1. Yeah,
he was
good win.
very, very good. Just the relentless pressure, God above. It was like, and the pace he put on that fight, he was just putting so much pressure on O'Reilly. The grappling was fantastic. And then we got to see a bit of the striking as well, especially in that third round. Clipped him and dropped him, kind of forcing O'Reilly to initiate the grappling that time. But some of the reversals in the grappling exchanges and just the overall activity, really impressive performance from him. I enjoyed that one. That's the flyweight division. If I have it here quickly. Yeah, flyweight division. So a big win from him. Goes up to 4-1. He was one that really stood out to me. As well as one who I have to mention was SPG Charlestown, Morgan Hines. Like these two, SPG Charlestown had quite the...
What a week for SPG Charlestown, yeah, for sure.
Jesus, yeah, some week. Morgan Hines, so impressive. He had an armbar win in the first round over Jordan White, and I thought he was sensational. To be honest, I think he got caught early with a little shot, and then from then on, as soon as it went to the ground, he got the overhook on the arm as soon as the fight went to the mat, and you could see him and the way he set it up and the timing. I thought just to snap that on, get the armbar nice and deep and get the tap was just sensational, and that was a big win for him, I thought, and a good way to start off the main card. A submission the commentators are very happy with.
A good old submission device, always happy. Anything that we missed on the card? Anything that you'd like to highlight before we move on, Andy? Obviously, we mentioned the ninja choke earlier on. That was Eric Marcoux who defeated Ryan Dunn via the ninja choke after just 33 seconds into round one. So it was a pretty slick finish there as well.
Yeah, so it's a bunch of other good wins. The card, Louise Brady beat Megan Hewitt by unanimous decision. We had Henry Lecca with a unanimous decision. Henry Lecca's on a great run. He beat Rian Dunleavy. And then the one that I was also looking forward to on the card was Roose George, the rematch, Roose George versus Paul Fitzgerald. There was a very contentious, controversial decision in their first match on Premier FC, the one down in the open amphitheatre down in Kilkenny. This one was a bit more straightforward, but I say a bit more straightforward, very much a back and forth affair and like a close fight again. Roose George in the end won a unanimous decision. Fitzgerald looked like he was coming on strong towards the end of that fight, and albeit though Roose George, he looked like he was kind of starting to gas at the end, but then he landed another big takedown. It was kind of grappling versus striking, I would say, a little bit here. Obviously, they both can do it all. But another really fun fight to watch. And even though Roose George is now 2-0 against Fitzgerald, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw them again at amateur at some point down along the road. But yeah, it was a fun fight and one that I was looking forward to.
Other results that we had that we would be worth mentioning as well. We had on FNC 23 in Belgrade, Sergio Pavel Politko picked up a really, really good TKO win over Honey Jason. Obviously Honey Jason has been around in the UFC. I think did Honey Jason come through tough Brazil? I want to say he did, but he's got some great experience there, and Powell went out there, won via round 3 TKO via punches. It was a great win as well. A result I think that caught us all by surprise when we were tuning in to One Fight Nights 110. We saw Shea Dobbin defeated Diogo Calado via TKO, KO, excellently described here in our notes as elbows, and they were elbows in the first round. I didn't know who Shea Dobbin was. I'm going to hand myself up to put my hand up. Andy was unsure about him.
No, well. I knew him. Yeah,
you knew him well. You'd be supposed up on the wall, of course.
No, I interviewed him. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. a man who I was full sure who might have, obviously with his Muay Thai credentials, Caoilte Barra, who's normally
what?
Yeah. With but a fellow who'd have his ear to the ground. You're always pulling out these lads that are fighting all over the place. He even caught you by surprise, but Shea Dobbin announced himself onto the mixed martial arts scene with a huge win via first round TKO, Caoilte.
I have no credentials just to throw it out. Jesus Christ. Fucking hell. Get people on to being like, what are you on about? No, I just love training Thai. I love Thai boxing. And this guy is the type I love when they cross over and they come to MMA, and Shea Dobbin, that's the man. I love it. He did it in style. Can't lie, hadn't a notion. It caught me by surprise. I went digging then. Watching one of his amateur fights from 2017. I'm pretty sure that was going on. Fought in Limerick there once upon a time as well. All in Thai boxing. And then it looks now that he's moved over to Thailand and is training over there and switched over to MMA. And those beautiful elbows that he's throwing from the clinch position in pure Thai fashion was unbelievable. I love it. Vicious finish. Opened up a nasty outcut, and what a way to make your debut.
Absolutely.
It's saying something when Caoilte doesn't know who they are, because I don't know if people notice, but Caoilte is his hidden talent, or Caoilte's like secret weapon, is just finding the most obscure fighter that none of us have ever heard of. Who's
he has
like in some corner of the world.
Lads, I actually had one to speak about.
Where's the French lad gone?
Oh, Martin.
What's his name?
Jeez, he's put on a bit. He's a flyweight. He's put on a bit of size now, as in like he's getting stronger.
He's on the baguette.
No, I'd say he'll be back soon. I haven't spoken to him in a while. No, there's another one. Hold on. Jordan Amb. He trains out shoot fighters in London. But I noticed recently he always dons an Irish flag and a Cameroon flag. But he's got a fight coming up soon as well on when is it? It's in August, is it? No, it's not. Jeez, sooner than that. But anyway, he's booked to fight soon enough, I think. Jordan Amb. Ambe. I could be saying that wrong. He's undefeated as a pro. I think he's 1-0, 2-0, fighting out of shoot fighters. But another one that we need to keep the ear to the ground on.
There we go. Heard it here first. Undefeated. Brilliant.
There you go. Yeah, 100%.
How do you find these guys? No, hang on. Let's not move past this. How do you find these guys? Because I
don't know. My Instagram is completely like sometimes just I'd be random flicking through Tapology. That my Instagram kind of feed is like the algorithm is just pure. Either it's all early level pros and amateur fighters from around the world. I've come across some random out lads altogether, but it's basically that, and a lot of the time Tapology, and the odd time just speaking to people and they bring up some. He's got a bit of an Irish name to him. Is he Irish? And I'm like, let's find out. And that's how we find them. Sure, Paddy Rutledge was the other one.
Yeah, last week. Yeah, Paddy Rutledge.
Zuckerberg's just like, this guy's a sicko. He just loves Irish random fighters. We'll just feed him that.
Yeah, basically, I love it. It's basically that. So there's the story behind it all.
Great stuff altogether. Last result, we want to just give a shout out to Fight to 19 / Brave CF95. It was a mixed promotion card there in Tenerife, Spain. Reda Abdellawi defeated Mario George via submission, rear naked choke in the first round. Unfortunate result there, I guess. So yeah, obviously, it'll be back onto the saddle for George again. After that loss. So just all the kind of the other results that's happened since we've last been on. Looking ahead to what's coming up, and we've got plenty coming up as well, lads. We have announcements for June the 6th on UAE Warriors 59. Omran Shaban returns from Team KF to face Gunter Kalunda Nagunza. That's some name. That's
what again?
Gunter Kalunda Ngunza. That's I don't know.
It rhymes.
Yeah, that's definitely a class name. Catchweight fight. Shuki Farage is out there from SPG Cork against Hafid Bendari. Fufu obviously making his professional debut. Very excited to see Fufu in action there. But a bit of Irish interest there, Andy, on the UAE Warriors. Arabia versus Africa card is what's been labelled on June 6th, so not too long to wait. Hard to believe we're in June already, lads. It's crazy. But yeah, looking forward to that one. Be interesting to see. I mean, how many more times are we going to have to see Omran go in there and get a win and perform before he gets a crack maybe in the UFC? I would assume that that's still the goal for him after being on The Ultimate Fighter. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already, to be honest. Maybe it's get this one out maybe aim for the Contender Series. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, everything that we spoke about with Paddy there earlier on, I mean, like, Amran Shaban is an absolute finisher. He's a serious fighter. He's been on tough already. He's been active since then. He had a fight, he had another finish there in February. He's fighting again here. Like, if you get to finish, or if you get to win here, like, what's to say you don't stick him straight into the Contender Series? Now, I guess the question is, have they finished their matchmaking for it yet? Or I know it's usually August it starts.
It gets close in around, like, normally around this time, and I think we've seen a couple of fights that have been announced already. But I mean, there's going to be 10 episodes of it, so it's going to be running for 10 weeks. So there is still time.
It could be perfect timing for it.
It could be, but depending on everything goes well for him in terms of I'd be fairly confident he can get the win here, but does he come out unscathed? Does he come out uninjured? That's something that you've got to be thinking about too heading in. But yeah, I think you're right in what you're saying. I think it's sooner rather than later we would expect Amran to kind of maybe get a shot there, and hopefully a win here will kind of kickstart that process to get him over to the Contender Series. Imagine, we could have a lot of Irish interest really on the Contender Series this year, all going well. Shuki Farage fighting a catchweight bout against Hafid Bendari. Obviously, we spoke to Fufu on the podcast as well as we have with Amran as well. Very exciting amateur that's turning professional, and I would expect that his style is going to be very well suited to the professional ranks, a forward-moving, kind of attack-minded fighter. And I'm excited to see him in action here, and a good chance for him here at UAE Warriors.
Yeah, I'm very, I can't wait to see how that translates across to his style translates across to the pro ranks. Similar to the likes of Solomon Simon, when they go pro, then they start to shine even more. And I think that, there's potential for that to be the case here with Shuki Farage as well. He tries to emulate Max Holloway in that style that he has in the cage, and it's very, it's very fan friendly. It's very good to watch, and he's extremely talented as well. So yeah, he's starting off the pro career now. What I'm interested in here as well is the fact that it's a 130-pound catch weight. So I know he fights that. He's fought at featherweight, bantamweight. So I wonder now is the goal that he's working towards going down to that 125 division. So that's a question that I must try and figure out for future reference, and it'd be interesting to see if he enters that flyweight division, because there could be some tasty Irish versus Irish scraps now if he ends up down in that flyweight division too.
Jesus, Andy Stevenson will be salivating if that happens now, huh? Salivating.
Say nothing.
A couple of other fights to get through here. Vacant flyweight or featherweight title, Nikolai Grozdev will take on Nacho Campos at WOW FC on June 7th, the day after UAE Warriors. On June 12th, a fight that's really slipped under the radar for me for sure is Asela Juge back to take on Yves Landu. That's a great fight, lads. That's a great fight on the PFL Nashville card. That I'm really looking forward to that one. Moving on to June 14th, we've got the return of the Jimmy Show as he returns over in Dubai at 971 FC2. It's like a postal code, isn't it?
It's like an air code, yeah.
Oh man, but it's great to see Jimmy back. He's taken on Fabricio Soares in Dubai, and always excited to see James back in action. It's good. Hopefully he can get into the win column and kickstart the next stage of his career. Obviously after leaving Bellator and PFL, he's got, I would assume, with a win he'd get some good opportunities coming forth as well. I can't go over 971 FC2 with his like postal code. That's crazy.
It's a great card too.
Good card overall. Yeah, good card overall there. We'll talk about that obviously on the next one and maybe in a little bit more detail. That will have taken place by the next time we're recording too, so it should be good. Yeah, June 15th, LFL 15 in Utrecht. Yanderson Castro takes on Peter Bust, and yeah, looking forward to that one too. So lots of action to look forward to between now and the next time that we record as well. I think we'll peel back the curtain here a little bit. We were planning to have Dennis Rimpong on today as a guest on the podcast to talk about his big win, obviously, at Octagon recently. Well, we just want to wish him a congratulations because, last night, as the time we were recording out, little baby Cassius Frederick Frimpong was born. Very delighted to hear that news. And obviously, Dennis is going to spend the time with his family and with his newborn now. So we're very happy for him and his partner. We want to wish him a congratulations here, and we're very excited. Next episode we'll be recording on Father's Day, so I think it kind of fits the mold perfectly to have Dennis on there to talk about the win and the new changes in his life. So if you're listening, Dennis, congratulations, my man. We're very happy for you, and we're looking forward to talking to you on the next episode of the Auld Triangle as well. Anything else, lads, before we wrap it up? Any final tidbits? Anything that we missed? Andy Stevenson, I'll hand it over to you.
I got nothing today. I've got nothing.
I have one or two things while Andy thinks up something.
He'll think of something now.
Last thing,
It's my birthday coming up. Do you know that, lads? There we go.
Happy birthday. When is your birthday?
It's on the 12th. So who can get a win for me? Who's fighting on the 12th? The Sale as Usual. Get a win for me, pal.
Sale as Usual. There you go. Boom. Spinning wheel kick to the head for Andy Stevenson.
Yeah.
Jared Ryan actually gave him his early birthday present by going 2-0 there at the weekend as well. So, Team Stevenson.
I never knew about that. Andy, I didn't mention Andy talking about that at all. This up.
Do you want me to tell you about it?
Or? I think there's a show coming up as well. Evolution Fighting Championships is on up in Tullamore. Kieran Davern's show, I believe it is. It's SPG Tullamore involved anyway. But there's a lot of novice MMA fights. There's some amateur MMA fights on it too. And overall, another show. And it's what stood out to me here is there's a couple of amateur fights, but it's a show in the Republic of Ireland as opposed to the north of Ireland, since we don't exactly get those. They're a bit more rare nowadays. And then in a couple of weeks, we've got Elite Fighting Championships 4 as well. And I think I've seen that Lee McCur has been announced for his professional debut as well on that card. So that's down in Cork. So a couple of regional bits coming up or announced over the next few weeks.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Busy times in the world of Irish mixed martial arts. Thanks to everybody for listening to the Auld Triangle. As always, we always appreciate your support. As I said at the start, share the podcast as much as you can. Give it an old 5-star rating on Spotify. Share it with a friend, someone who's interested in Irish mixed martial arts. We're always happy to see new viewers and watchers come in to see the show. And all is left for us to do for episode 85 of the Auld Triangle is for Caoilte to see us out.
Gary Rooney, agus Longafall.